3, 2, 1. Yo, what's good, YouTube? It's your boy Vade, aka Pro Benchwarmer, bringing you another episode of Box Benchwarmers, this series where we discuss every incomplete archetype within Duel Links, their relative history within our meta, and what cards do they need to become competitive. Now, if you enjoy this series, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more weekly content. As long as I can keep finding these archetypes, I will keep giving them to you. But today I wanted to follow up with another fan favorite archetype. We have Gladiator Beasts. In the TCG, very back row heavy deck that focuses on two gimmicks. One being that every time a Gladiator Beast does battle, whether they've been attacked or attacked, they can tag themselves out, put themselves back into the main deck, and actually special summon another monster from the main deck, and their effects actually work when they're special summoned by the effect of a Glad Beast monster. The second gimmick is a gimmick that we've seen with Neo-Spacians, which, well, let's not talk about those, but is actually contact fusing and going into the extra deck with some really good fusion monsters with effects that are phenomenal, and even the fusion monsters can tag out and go back into Glad Beast monsters from the main deck. So that's really good. I like how their gimmick works, and in Duel Links their gimmick has been really good because it was a control deck that focused on getting out Bestiary and Murmillo so you could pop back row cards and face up monsters. With doing so, you out resource your opponent very slowly, to the point that you can just poke at them with some damage and they have to pray that they top deck something good to stop you. That is how Glad Beasts played. They were really good, but also very much a back row heavy deck. It went from a deck running a lot of monsters to just a balanced deck running 8 monsters and just constantly recycling their monsters and having a bunch of back row to rely on. This made this deck really slow. I mean, they were inherently slow already, but just relying on back row is the main reason why Glad Beasts thrived, and also why they fell off. As the meta changed into more special summoning decks and having more explosive back row, or back row that just promote their the deck's chances of like controlling the board, Glad Beasts became fewer and fewer seen on the PvP ladder because they just could not keep up with the meta. But if we can find a way to make this deck more competitive, trust me, I will try to make it more competitive, and I have just the cards that Glad Beasts need. The first card is ironically Defensive Tactics, which I say ironically because it will actually make the deck more offensive. It's a card that states if you control one face-up Glad Beast monster for the rest of the turn, you take no battle damage and they cannot be destroyed by battle. That is amazing because these cards need to be either attacked or attack in order to get their effects off while they shuffle, so they can shuffle themselves back into the main deck and get other monsters out. So while you're taking no battle damage, which is amazing, and your monsters are not being destroyed by battle, which is amazing, especially in a game that doesn't have that many forms of monster removal, this card is phenomenal. It's also phenomenal if you can read the last card, the last line that says, after this card resolves, place it in the bottom of your deck. So when these monsters get shuffled back into the deck gets shuffled when they get back into the deck, and shuffled again when the newer monster comes out of the deck. So putting this in the bottom of the deck doesn't mean that you're not gonna see them. They get shuffled back into the deck. If you're running 3 of these, you actually have a never-ending supply of defensive tactics. It's amazing. Why I say that it lets this deck become more offensive is because this takes the role of a couple other back row cards that Glad Beasts ran, namely Impenetrable Attack, Windstorm, or Curse of Anubis, are all truncated into this one card, which allows Glad Beasts to run cards like Cosmic Cyclone, Offering of the Doom, since they're constantly using their deck anyway, so skipping a draw phase is actually not that hard, and cards like Treacherous Trap Hole, since this trap is not going to the graveyard, is going back into the deck. But I don't think it's that busted because it can still be Cosmic Cyclone. It can still be like it's not that it's not that busted. You feel me? For me, I feel like it's a really good card, but it's still a trap, so it's still inherently slow, and you still need the Glad Beast on the field, which people can try to get rid of that in other means to render Defensive Tactics actually useless. And being that it goes back into the deck, you have a chance of drawing into it in the turn that you need to draw a monster, and that will fuck you up. So next card I'm actually going to talk about is the Glad Beast Turbo cards, the cards that will make this deck go from really slow to really fast. And the first one is actually a hand trap in Glad Beast Noxious. Now I say hand trap, but it's because of its summoning condition. It can be summoned normally. It's, you know, that's fine. But it says when the an opponent's monster declares a direct attack, you feel me? No monsters on the field. I attack for game. GG, told you I'm the master. Nah, man. I drop a Glad Beast Noxious on you, and you have to attack the Noxious, and it does not get destroyed by that battle. So that means that this card is already live to send it back into the deck to shuffle out a new Glad Beast monster, which is really amazing. And also, when it's special summoned by a Glad Beast effect, you send one Glad Beast from the deck straight to the graveyard. Its own effect is a Glad Beast effect, so once you special summon it because your opponent declared a direct attack, you will be sending a card straight to the graveyard. Now that doesn't sound like beneficial for Glad Beast, since they don't want to hit the graveyard, they want to get shuffled back into the deck. This combos well with the next card because you need something live in that graveyard. So this effect is amazing, and the next card is actually Glad Beast Darius, which when this card is special summoned by the effect of a Glad Beast monster, target one Glad Beast in the graveyard, special summon it, and that card goes back into the deck when this card goes back into the deck, which is phenomenal. So you go from no monsters onto the field to special summoning Noxious, and then in the end phase, go into Darius, get the card that you sent from the graveyard back onto the field, and you have 2 monsters on your field from having no monsters on your field. I think that that's Glad Beast Turbo for this. You need to open up with a Noxious in order to actually go in for game with Glad Beast next turn, which is fantastic. It's still slow, but it's actually faster than Glad Beast before by just summoning a monster, setting 3 back row, and just praying that you can live to next turn to summon another monster and go into the extra deck. That's too slow for me. This will help the deck actually achieve higher heights because now it can compete with other decks in the meta, but it also is not busted considering everything else that we have in the meta. I feel like I have to keep saying that because the next card will blow your mind. It is Glad Beast Guitarist. Now this requires Bestiary and a Glad Beast monster, which can easily be done. When you special summon Noxious, you send Bestiary to the graveyard, then you shuffle it out and tag in Darius. Darius gets the Bestiary that was in the graveyard, and now on your turn you have a Glad Beast Guitarist live and ready to go. When this card hits the field, you can pop 2 cards on the field. Now I know a lot of people are like, whoa, Guitarist, pop 2 cards in the field, that's way too much for Duel Links. But like, we're talking about a meta where Noble Knights pops 3 cards in the field with Arfiduder and Dristin, or Arfiduder going into Madrot, going on to Madrot, pop a face down, pop Arfiduder, get Dristin, pop a face up, Arfiduder effect, pop a face down. Easy. Gear with Ties can easily pop 4 cards the next turn. Easy. What's another deck? Sylvans can pop cards like crazy. We have gotten decks that can destroy and disrupt opponents' fields. It happens, you feel me? Like, we have managed to deal with those decks, and those decks can hit King of Games, and decks that can tech against those decks have hit King of Games. I don't feel like Guitarist is too busted for Duel Links, because we have cards that can handle it, like Chalice. It doesn't want to attack into a Super Rush Headlong, and so on and so forth. We can stifle it until we can attack over it. It has really weak defense, so just econing it into defense position and then ramming into it. Hopefully they don't have back row. You can Cosmic Cyclone off their back row. We have answers to Glad Beast. We made them irrelevant before. This card will make them relevant again, and I don't think it will be too busted so that we just have a Glad Beast meta. Also, Amazonis, if they don't pop the Onslaught, we just banish all of their monsters. It does not matter, you feel me? So I think Glad Beast Guitarist is actually really beneficial for this game. I think that that's what they need. Forget all the other extra deck monsters. Glad Beast Guitarist is totally necessary. Now, I was gonna mention Test Tiger, but Test Tiger would only be good if you're playing like dual standby, because what are you going into that you can't just do with battle? Like, I don't know. I don't think Test Tiger is that necessary for Duel Links at the moment, but let me know what you guys think. Those are my opinions. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I look forward to hearing from you guys. I'm gonna get going. It's a wrap.